Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending the VEEP Wellness webinar. What I'm about to do is take the next 10 minutes and walk you through a very unique nutrition technology that really stands apart in the employee wellness space. VEEP stands for Visual Eating and Exercise Program, and what you're about to see is a rethink. Weight loss, it's just broken, and so is what we call fitness. And the reason being is very, very simple. Temporary behaviors never have and never will create permanent change. If you think about it, folks, it really makes a lot of sense. I mean, in your own lives, sustainable change is never going to happen as long as the behaviors that you're using can't be sustained. So tracking systems, counting calories, tracking meals, meal deliveries, they're all not sustainable. And that literally makes up about 100% of the solutions out there. You see, the problem with tracking systems is that they literally have no power to help you when you're off track. And for most people, that's actually most of their lives. 10 years from now, you're not going to be entering your calories in your food tracker. It's not sustainable, and it's actually pretty boring. And retention rates from tracking solutions tend to go to zero after just a couple of months for the vast majority of users. So clearly, something is broken. So what I'm going to do in the next 5 minutes is I'm going to show you something that not only is sustainable, but you will also be using 10 years from now. You guys ready? All right, let's go. What you're looking at here is the VEEP interface, and what's first worth mentioning is what you don't see when you're using VEEP. What you don't see in the VEEP system is place to count your calories or place to track your points or any of those things. What we decided to do was revolve the entire technology around a behavior that actually is sustainable. And something that we do every day when we eat food is all of us, without even thinking about it, we all visually estimate our portion sizes. If you folks think about it, when you're making food for yourself or for your loved ones, what are you actually doing in practice? Well, number one, you're getting your standard dinner plate out, which this represents on your screen, which is your standard 10.5-inch or 11-inch dinner plate. And then you prepare the foods that you want to eat. And after the food is prepared, you put the food on your plate based upon what you think are the right amounts. You just visually eyeball your portions. The problem with this approach is that most people find it difficult to get their portion sizes correct, and nutrition is very complex. It's difficult to understand what food groups to combine at the right times of the day and in the right amounts. So the really unique part about VEEP is that it simplifies the dieting and nutrition process down to literally just showing you what to eat visually for every single meal of the day. There's no counting, there's no measuring, there's no tracking. You literally just eat what you see. And all the foods and portion sizes are customized to you. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to take a few minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something that you're going to be using and you're going to remember 5, even 10 years from now. I'm setting the bar very high on purpose, but give me a shot. Okay, what you see here is a spaghetti dish that we have in VEEP. And if you'll notice, instead of pasta, we actually use spaghetti squash just for this particular meal because it's very, very weight friendly. But the interesting part about spaghetti squash is that it has a very high volume to calorie ratio, meaning you get a lot of it for a very low amount of calories. So all this spaghetti squash you see in my plate, it's only 170 calories, and that is a lot of volume of food. But I'm going to make a food substitution, and I'm going to show you the exact same amount of calories in terms of a different starch, one that's a little bit more popular and is a Super Bowl favorite, hummus. Now, the exact same amount of calories in terms of hummus compared to that spaghetti squash is going to look like this. Shocking, right? I can promise for the most of you that are seeing this, you're probably running the math in your head of the last time you had hummus and thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, I took in probably close to 1,000 calories without even thinking twice. But when you see it one time, visually, it creates a permanent memory. Because I can promise you that the next time you have hummus, you're going to think back to this visual representation and think, you know what, I got to really be cognizant of my portion size. Is it okay to show you folks one more? Okay, let me jump into it really quickly. I'm going to pull up a type of fish in my proteins tab called orange roughy. And orange roughy is actually a very unique fish. Not to get too technical, but orange roughy actually contains a particular type of fat called a wax ester. And the thing about wax esters is when they get into the stomach, the body exerts a ton of energy to try to break it down, but it can't. So it ends up passing the fats. But the fish itself yields very little energy in return. So the ratio of energy expenditure to actual energy consumed from the actual food is very, very favorable to fat loss. So all this orange roughy on my plate, that's only 210 calories, and that is a lot of fish right there. Now keep in mind, folks, the foods and the portion size are just customized to you. So your unique profile will show different volumes of different foods. But for this particular example, I'm going to show you the exact same amount of calories in terms of another protein that's also a little bit more popular. That's a fattier meat, like lamb, for example. Now, the exact same amount of calories in terms of lamb compared to that orange roughy looks like that. All right, folks, here's kind of the value proposition. I took 2 minutes. I showed you 4 different foods. Showed you the spaghetti squash, the hummus, the lamb, and the orange roughy. And I can promise you, for the rest of your life, you'll never forget this. The next time you have orange roughy or spaghetti squash, you're going to remember and think, oh, you know what? I can have a lot of volume of food for these groups. But the exact opposite effect for foods like hummus or lamb, where you're going to have to really watch your portion size. So if I can create 4 permanent memories of foods that you personally will never have to count or track or weigh or measure or enter into your MyFitnessPal, MyFitnessTracker ever again because you learned it, imagine the impact that this approach can have on someone's health in 6 months. We're talking permanent behavior change. So with VEEP, don't track foods, learn foods, and it is so much more powerful. Now, I want to cover a couple key concepts in VEEP by showing you how to use foods functionally. And you know what I said today would be a rethink, and this is what we've all been bought into thinking over the past several decades. We call it the avoid and never paradigm. So avoid is just your list. You know, everyone's got their list to avoid. Avoid white foods, glutens, red meats, dairies, carbs, on and on. You know, and then you've got your rules like never eat after 8 o'clock or the 5 foods you should never eat. This is what we've been baked into thinking for so long. But with VEEP, this is going to be a completely new rethink. See, here's the problem with the avoid and never paradigm. When it comes to rules as sustainable behavior changes, avoid and never do not work forever. You know, we just experienced this over the holidays. So let's rethink this based on how the body actually works. And when you learn this, folks, it is absolutely going to transform your lives. See, the body actually goes through a natural daily cycle of burning fat and storing fat. So throughout certain periods of the day, your body burns fat and it stores fat. So the key lesson that we teach you in VEEP is how to maximize fat loss periods and minimize fat storage periods. And we educate you and teach you by using food, not avoiding food. And how we do so is what's called VEEP University, and it's in the program itself. And VEEP University is literally like Netflix for food. There are about 3 to 5 minute series of videos that educate you about using food, and it drives retention through the roof because it's incredibly fascinating material that is very relatable to your average full-time working employee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull one of the lessons in VEEP University, and I'm going to extrapolate it out and teach you exactly what you would learn in one of these lessons. So for this particular example, there is a lesson in VEEP called the Tuesday-Thursday Fat Burn. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to teach you a very quick and effective lesson on how to add an extra 10 hours of fat burning every single week to your daily schedule, and it's absolutely painless. All right, let's jump into it. When you're using the VEEP system, you're going to notice on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, your breakfast is going to be very small. It's going to typically consist of a meal that's very high in fat with a moderate amount of protein. For this particular example in this profile, it's showing me 2 whole eggs. And see, the thing that most people don't realize is that when you wake up in the morning, your body is actually burning fat. But the thing that we've all been coached into eating healthier is that, oh, when you wake up in the morning, you've got to have oatmeal or you've got to have fruit. See, the problem with those recommendations is that they lack context and they don't understand how the body actually works. So here, what you learn is that a couple times a week, if you have a meal that's very small in fat and protein, like an egg, the body will actually burn ketones. And when your body burns ketones, you actually continue the fat burning process. So notice the timing of these meals. Okay, you have a timing at 9 in the morning to 12:30 between your first two meals. And then you have a couple hours span between your lunch and your AM snack and your lunch. So added this time together, you're going to get about an extra 4 to 5 hours of added fat burning every Tuesday and every Thursday. And it's absolutely painless by simply following the meals that are in the system. Okay? So think of how simple that was. Every Tuesday and every Thursday, if you can add an extra 5 hours of fat burn, what that's really going to help do is help mitigate the weight gain effects that would normally occur on maybe some evenings out or on the weekends where most people tend to gain weight. Okay, finally, let's look at a new paradigm of using food and how it completely annihilates the idea of dieting. Okay, so another core idea in VEEP University revolves around alcohol consumption and alcohol metabolism. So we have a full lesson in VEEP University all about how you can drink alcohol and really minimize the harmful effects and weight gain that would typically occur from drinking alcohol. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to walk you through the lesson that's in VEEP University, and then you'll be able to pull this out from a little takeaway from the webinar itself. So when you log in on a Friday morning, the VEEP program is going to ask you a couple questions. It's going to say, hey, good morning. How much do you weigh this morning? It's going to ask you that a couple times a week so it can monitor your progress. And then it's going to ask you, hey, are you planning on going out to dinner this evening? And also, are you planning on drinking alcohol this evening? So if you let the program know that that's what you plan on doing, then it's actually going to dynamically adjust your first 4 meals of the day to get you into accelerated fat burning. So that in the evening when you're going out to dinner, you've already taken the proper steps prior to that meal so that you can offset a lot of the weight gain that would typically occur from, let's say, a dinner or an evening out, okay? But we actually take it a step further. You don't even have to follow VEEP for dinner. But let's say that you wanted to really stay on track and you wanted to follow VEEP for this particular evening. Okay, so what you're going to notice here is that we're going to teach you how you can drink alcohol and minimize weight gain from it. So when you notice this particular meal on the plate, it has alcohol on the plate itself, and then it has a couple other foods that it recommends. And what you learn in VEEP is that by combining asparagus with alcohol, it's actually very beneficial because studies have shown that asparagus increases the activity of 2 key enzymes involved in alcohol metabolism. See, the really cool, actually the one beneficial part about alcohol from a health perspective is that it boosts your metabolism. But unfortunately, it also causes a lot of inflammation. But by combining alcohol with cod, cod has been proven to lower C-reactive proteins, so it actually may help reduce inflammation. So by combining alcohol with cod, you boost your metabolism, lower inflammation, and by adding in asparagus, you help speed up the metabolization of the alcohol. See, folks, this is not dieting. This is functional food combining at a level that has never been done before. See, once again, it's not about avoiding food. It's about learning how to use food. And this will literally transform your and your employees' lives. So all that counting and tracking, it's really old school. It's boring, and it's soon going to be a thing of the past. See, no one likes to stick with it, and I think it's pretty obvious. So this is where learning how to use food has such an important long-term value for your employees because this is permanent behavior change. And I can promise you in 10 years, the things that I've just taught you in the 10 minutes that I took today, you're going to remember 10 years from now, and you're going to be applying on a regular basis. So you may not be logging into your MyFitnessPal every day, but I can promise you that things you learn today, you're going to be using. And that is the power of VEEP. It is an educational learning system that will transform your life. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this webinar. I hope you have a couple good takeaways from it. What we'd really like to do is to take this a step further and sit down with you to understand what you're trying to accomplish with your personal, employee wellness goals. So if you have any questions and would like to take that step forward, a contact information to reach out to is myself, Marco Del Prince, at marco@veep.com, marco@veep.com. And I'd love to take that step forward and absolutely transform the corporate culture and the overall health of your employees. So thank you very much for your time. You have a great day.